Dober dan in lepo pozdravljeni. Z nami je že Rikke Villadsen, ki je nedavno pri Stripburgerju oziroma pri forumu Ljubljana izdala strip Tetovator in klitoris. Več o tem bomo slišali prav kmalu. Moderatorka tokratnega pogovora je Tea Hvala. Če imate kakšno vprašanje, seveda ga ne pozabite do konca, z veseljem vam bo Rikke tudi odgovorila. Pogovor bo sicer potekal v angleščini, kasneje po pogovoru pa vabljeni k Stripburgerjevemu štandu, kjer boste lahko dobili tudi kakšen podris v strip. So, Rikke, thank you very much for coming to Slovenia, and Tea, thank you for moderating this conversation. Enjoy.
Thank you also from my side. We only have 45 minutes to present many works that you made. So I did prepare some questions, but please, if you have your own, just raise your hands. There's a mic circling, and just intervene. We will at least partially try to present your work with the help of words and some chosen images from Rikke's comics. Welcome again to the festival and to Ljubljana. And instead of reading a biography of you, I would like to ask you, since your first album was released almost 15 years ago, and I imagine that you started making comics much earlier, if you could tell us what drew you to comics initially and what continues to draw you to comics.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Actually, I didn't do a lot of comics, and I didn't read a lot of comics either. So I think I saw a lot of movies, and so that was kind of my approach. I always say that comics is a bit like cinema, just without the sound and without the time. So you can spend hours on one panel, or you can look at it just for 1 second. It's up to the reader. But yeah, I was in art school in visual design and communication, and I did a lot of animation and wanted to work with that. So storytelling was a thing. And then there was this very progressive publisher in Denmark who asked all kinds of artists if they wanted to do a small comic book. So that was my first work in 2009, and it felt so natural. And it felt like this was actually the space where I could see what I was about, what storytelling was about, where I could explore my way of telling stories and explore my art. So it felt very natural, and so I approached it in a way that I said to myself, I'm gonna make a comic, and what is like a typical comic, maybe like a cliche even. And I found that the tales of the sea was like, that was a good way, that was a good place to start. And so with storytelling, I think it's important to notice that I'm a woman, and I don't have that many stories. I haven't been told that many stories with female characters. So I think that was a place to start seeing what kind of what kind of questions are here for me to embrace and be curious about. And I remember showing this my first work about this. I actually thought he was a sailor, and I showed it to someone much more experienced than me, and he said, "Well, Rikke, that's not a sailor, that's a fisherman." And so at this point, that started the discussion. within. Is he a sailor or is he just a fisherman? And so that kind of led to the next conflict. And then again, that led to another, I got the idea that why not, maybe he should just catch a baby instead of a fish. So I put these kind of weird symbols into it. And so there's, my work is in a way a lot about process. How can I make a comic, not planning a comic? And I never worked with a manuscript or a storyboard or anything. I just work with a blank piece of paper and see where it takes me. So this is I guess this is kind of my work, and you can see that through all the books. And then, of course, when you work like this, you have to have a strong idea in the beginning, or a concept or a frame, so you don't get lost. You have to have an idea that you stick to, and this idea, it's not that it has to be like a concept that is completely like locked, but you just have to have this kind of sense of where you want to go and what I want to explore, and then they all of my books have this kind of it jumps into a genre, but still it also has another level, and that's kind of my personal reflections on life and life itself. And in this comic, making this comic, all of a sudden I got pregnant. So where did the baby come from? I was not in a relationship, and it felt very natural to feel that the baby came from the sea, and it kind of came to me, and so that it took a turn. And as you can see, I even depicted how are you gonna make babies without a man. You're gonna find a lighthouse next to the sea and say some magic words and do whatever. So this is kind of my approach to my work. Like, just go along and feel very open and curious, but also like having this constant belief in the idea. Yeah.
My feeling reading both The Sea and Cowboy was that they feel the flows very naturally. But at the same time, they both seem also as very, very humorous explorations of limits of genre, or maybe more specifically, like an exploration of the question what happens to traditionally male genre with traditional male action-driven heroes once others enter. Mm-hmm. Women, speaking fish, speaking babies. And perhaps not everyone in the audience is familiar with your first two albums, The Sea and Cowboy, which are also available in English via Fantagraphics. And if it's not too much of a revelation, could you tell us what happens to the genre of both seaman's tale and Western once your female protagonists enter them? Do the heroes survive? Does the genre survive? Does the female protagonist survive?
Well, as my art, I don't give any answers. I only ask the questions, and interesting questions that if they survive, no, they don't. I guess it becomes very surreal and weird, and for many readers, I get the feedback they need to read it twice, at least, to make any sense of it. But then it has this strong body. Maybe you can say it's a strong body. It's a kind of a feeling, or it's in between the words. It's not the concept, and it's not outspoken, but there's just some kind of feeling through it all that surely is the death of genres and typical heroes, and so no, they don't survive. I remember a review that said that I castrate the male hero. So, and isn't it time for that also? I guess it is.
Let's leave the audience to decide for themselves when they read it. And if we move on to the clitoris, so in English, the title of your third album is The Clitoris. In Danish and in Slovenian, it's longer. It's The Tattooist and the Clitoris, so it's the same book. And in this album, what struck me as quite different from the previous two is exactly this attempt to avoid genre altogether, or perhaps to go deeper into unexplored territory, yet unexplored territory, that also avoids classification. It's very difficult to say what this comic is. It's easier to say what it isn't, in my view. So, and also, as you mentioned before, you always work without a script or a storyboard. But this comic is also more specific also in that way that the material for the comic came from your dreams. And I would like you to tell us a bit about the process of making the comic. And again, because it's a new translation, I will just repeat what's written about it in the program of Tinta Festival, just to get a frame, because it's a good description. It says, in this comic, the protagonist embarks on a journey of self-exploration through a surreal dreamscape, breaking down everything established along the way. The patriarchal order, gender roles, and even the very conventions of the comic medium. So please, if you can tell us a bit about the process of how the clitoris came to be.
Like my other work, it started with some drawings that I found had a lot of expression to it, and I needed to go further. Oh. So for half a year, I woke up in the morning and I tried to write down what I remembered, symbols or things or stories from the night landscape of my dreams. And I also read a lot of theory on how to that we're actually a lot of people even they dream the same, and I think that's very interesting that there's kind of a entity or like a universal kind of thing going on in our subconsciousness. And so also working with a surreal kind of thing. Dreams are like natural. They naturally give symbols and stories that was gonna be cool to. I'm so confused by the images that you guys are looking at while I'm sitting here trying to focus on a question. On what we're seeing, I'll let you decide. As I always think that it's very, very difficult to explain my art. it's kind of it becomes less if you try to put words onto it, and that's why I think that the comics, what they can do actually is in the images, that's the very interesting part of the comic medium, because it can say so much more than words, and it has what I called before the kind of the body in the work is the images and the overall sense of it. So yeah. But it's actually a while since I started the work with the clitoris. It's 9 years ago, so I can't really remember what was the first. I worked with the book for 3 years, and I was actually very far ahead of it before I noticed, oh, this is gonna be like a journey, like going from like a home, going out and returning to a home, like many folk tales are also in this kind of frame. So, and then I just took all the kind of the weird and interesting symbols from dreams, and then sparked it up with like reflections on identity, sexuality, feminism, and had like a dialogue for 3 years. Can you imagine? And of course I was under influence of many others, like, so I read, for example, I read Solanas Scum Manifesto. It was so strong. So I had this going on for a very long time. What was she on about, and how this and that, and the daddy's girl themes that she's working with, and that we are actually all conditioned into identity, also with our bodies, and that the culture that surrounds us are conditioning us into what we are. And so you can question it, and you can maybe revolt or be like make a revolution, but there's also things that are so deeply integrated in our bodies that it's difficult to do something about it. It's just there from the very beginning. So all these thoughts, this discussion just kept on while the woman in the story goes on this journey. Oh, the mic is behind you.
In the first page of the clitoris comic, there is a motto, like a quote from Ursula Le Guin, the famous American sci-fi feminist author, also fantasy author and poet, and many other things. And you quote a sentence from one of her essays on writing, where she says that the type of story that can accommodate or fit the kind of a narration that is close to, or that women, readers and authors and women's lives can actually identify with or fit in, cannot be structured as an arrow that goes from point A to point B, killing whatever is there to kill in the process or in the end. So like as a resolution of a conflict, or, you know, as a final harmony in the end, that is not enough or is not the correct form. And she suggests another form, which she describes with the metaphor of a bag, storytelling as filling a bag with whatever content you need to fill it with, and without having necessarily a clear end or resolution. And I thought that if this was also, that's a question maybe for you, if this quote was something that guided you also when you try to maybe move away from conventions? Because it feels to me that maybe the sea and cowboy are within the genre, but also mocking the genres with this meta-narrative, meta-layer that stays also in clitoris, but is no longer using perhaps this mocking, funny also tone, you know? It moves away maybe from satirizing past work into more introspection with the help maybe of this theory also. And so first I would like to ask you just if this was a sort of guideline for you also, this programmatic text actually about how to write fiction otherwise, or depict fiction.
Yeah, I think I didn't know it just when I started, but when I read this, it's a very small essay, and it's influenced me a lot because it's just so. She writes in such a clear way about this bag theory that you put things you find in a bag, and it was very liberating also. So maybe it's okay that I kind of go on this, could you say, work adventure, right? The blank sheet in front of you, and you kind of play and see what comes, and you're curious, and when things happen, you follow up and you put it in a bag, and like the story, the story doesn't have to have a plot. The story doesn't have to have what you call an arrow. And so it was very liberating reading this essay. And yeah, I used it further on as a guide. So yeah.
In some ways, Rikke, the main character of Clitoris, the auto-fictional, I guess, character, from a, let's say, if we compare her to classic female protagonists, especially mainstream female protagonists in the superwoman vein, she is an anti-hero. But from a, I would say, feminist point of view, also from the point of view of feminist authors who try to talk about heterosexual women's desire and queering it in a way, she feels definitely as a hero or a heroine. She is, as you said, confused about her identity. She's ashamed of her body, full of self-blame. And this in itself, the way you showed it, it feels very real. Probably not only because you depicted it so well, but also because many women feel that experience in their daily lives. And for me, it was also, I think, the first, at least for me, the first female protagonist of a comic or any work of fiction that remains topless throughout the story, yet is not sexualized or objectivized in any way, or at least, let's say, outside of sexual context. And that feels like an achievement in itself. And so I wanted to ask you how you came up with this idea to draw her topless. You offer some explanations in the comic or hints why she is topless. But my question is actually, how did you come up to that decision, and how difficult was it to stick to this decision, knowing the prevalence of slut-shaming also, of women who reveal too much of their body?
Yeah, so of course it comes from a dream. I don't know if you ever tried having this dream that you are in the middle of your maybe you actually need to do a performance or presentation, or you have to be a persona, and all of a sudden you notice that you're naked and you just can't be naked, and you also have to go to the toilet and everything is wrong and you're very exposed in the dream. So this is where it came from. I have had dreams where I felt exposed and naked in front of people, especially in front of like the military, the military buffet, you know, stuff like that. And like this, really the sensation, like the food is so gross and you need that bathroom and you just can't find. And I'm not sure what Freud would think of this dream, how he would explain. But I guess
checked actually.
you did.
It's an exhibitionist dream. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Typical exhibitionist dream.
oh. So that reveals something about me, doesn't it?
Or him.
Yeah. Well, so to stick with the idea, I found that it was actually, I think if she had been a hero and not an anti-hero, I mean, she couldn't have had these bare breasts throughout the comic. So it's something that is, in a way, helping her to be kind of dumb and have these doubts and self-doubt and questioning all the time. So it's kind of also like a nakedness that is childish in a way, like a symbol of that. So it's, yeah, as you say, I'm actually not sure, but I think actually when she's with the weird little thing called Frank, there are no breasts. So in that cave, she hasn't.
The opium then.
Yeah.
Okay. Doing unusual psychotherapy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perhaps I will. Like we have 15 minutes left, so I would really like to leave some space for you. So maybe just like one question more related to what we were just talking about. So the topics you address, because all of these topics are troublesome, not only for women, specifically heterosexual women, but also for feminist theory as such. And what I mean is questions that are all related to femininity and the female body. Starting with self-shaming of body image itself or of your own sexuality, but also being ashamed of your politically incorrect sexual fantasies, or having very mixed feelings and thoughts about motherhood, menstruation, all these aspects that on the one hand feel like the cruel fate that allowed patriarchy to oppress women for centuries, and on the other hand are also often glorified as the specificity that gives women a specific kind of power in an otherwise unequal world. Mm-hmm. And from the many topics we could continue to talk about, I would like to close off with the one topic that is very rarely addressed in arts in general, also in comics, especially from a woman's point of view, and that is motherhood and the ambiguity, the whole array of negative and positive feelings, fears, expectations, pleasures it brings in a woman. It's a topic you addressed in several comics, the sea, the clitoris, and I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what aspects of conception, birth and motherhood, and also menstruation, what draws you to them, or what aspects are you interested in showing?
That was a difficult one too. I mean, it's I've always been for like surreal art is always interesting. Is in this what is called the object, right? It's not you and it's not the other, but it's something that the body, the fluids of the body, and this. I think it's interesting because it has since the Bible, actually, it was the Bible who said it was disgusting. I don't know if it is disgusting, giving birth and menstruation and stuff. But anyway, it's a kind of a taboo, and so it's good to have as a symbol, and it's good to have in the stories. Yeah, it's like you also actually had a question about what is the clitoris, and I think, because it's in the title, right? And but it's not depicted really. I remember when it came out in the US, there was a lot of guys commenting on Instagram. Yeah, it's so hard to find. Where is it? So typical. Well, but really, what is interesting is that it was in 1997 that it was actually discovered in its full form. Of course, doctors have always known that there was like a small head, but the 4 legs were discovered in 97.
I'm sorry, I was told by a very angry feminist Slovenian gynecologist that that's not true. Maybe in France they did it with...
She was Australian.
But she said that in the Yugoslavian gynecology textbooks, it was depicted as it...
Okay.
With the whole body already in the 60s.
And that's yeah, okay. Yeah, so actually that's when we can talk about when is it recognized, right, in the academic world. Anyways, so I heard it was 97. And I just think that's only like 28 years ago. It's a huge potential. I mean, there is a potential in what we just recognize, and so that's how it kind of became a symbol of a new way of thinking, telling stories, reflecting on like what it is to be a woman. Yeah.
So who is clitoris in the story? Where is it?
It's the potential. It's the potential and the manifest, right? What it can be, how we can conceive our identity, and maybe start no, we cannot start all over. But anyways, we can start looking at things in a different perspective, trying to at least become more true to, I wouldn't even say nature, but become more aware and more curious of all the layers of being human, right? Or a woman.
I gladly give the word to you if somebody has a question.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
We can hear you.
My control. Yes, first a bit of a praise for Rikke's work, because I became familiar with her work quite a few years ago now. And I am exactly the type of guy who likes resolution, and I go after every movie and type, could you please let me know the explanation of the ending and so on. But then I read the clitoris and I never had any desire to know exactly what it happened. It was this perfect confusion which I enjoyed very much, and I made my own versions of endings and meanings and so on. So thank you for that. Like it really. I think in terms of comic medium, I've seen this narrative in movies maybe, But in terms of comics, it's something new and very refreshing, I must say. But the question would be, I like this, your travels when you go in the clitoris, also to Southeast Asia, and then you have also some sort of Korean army and so on. And I would like to ask you whether you just dreamt of those lands or you actually visit them, and how they end up in your story.
Yeah, it's funny that I think when I look back, there's actually a lot of Poland is also like there's a lot of mentioning, like it kind of goes around the world, I guess. But yeah, I've been to India a few times and have dreamt about it since. Actually, it's a lot of smells there. That's the biggest impression, but you can't have that in a comic. So and also, I think these images of India is a lot of like there's so much noise in the pencil that it's actually is a kind of that's what my art is about. I mean, all these like little things that they don't move, but they kind of move anyway because they are itching in a way, or it's just not very pretty. And then Korea is that was where Marilyn Monroe did a show in was it 57 or 54. She did a show for the soldiers, and she was like the only woman, probably, or anyway in a dress like that. It was freezing cold, and she was just doing this show for like 10,000 of soldiers, and this, I just thought that this idea of like one woman being the desire of so many men. I mean, her pictures went around all the Western world, and it's just incredible how like the entertainment industry have narrowed down desire in like one single woman. So of course she had to be a part of it, and that's why we ended up in Korea. Yeah. I think I also it's from like looking at your dreams, or I don't know, looking at my dreams. I travel a lot. Then I'm like this place and that place, and it's always the same areas or the same places. Yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm an exhibitionist. What does Freud say about that? Yeah.
Thank you. One more, if I'll be quick. So we are yet to see how your book is going to be received in Slovenia, but not just your book, also the work you've done for the Holy Burger. Do you have any idea how it was received in the US versus in Denmark? I don't know if you published anywhere else, if your work was translated in other languages as well. So some sort of geographical differences in reception of your work.
Well, it's funny because you sit and you make stuff and it's published and then you don't know. I mean, of course, some people will receive it. Hopefully they will like it, but you don't really know. So I'm always very surprised and happy if someone comes up to me and say, "Yeah, I actually read your work." Oh, really? It's amazing that it's actually out there. But yeah, it's translated to Ukrainian and Spanish as well, and I'm not sure how it's. I'm not really sure. So.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Then I will use the last minutes to say that your work. Rikke's work is also can be seen in Alcatraz Gallery until the end of month. One comic, originals, right, from Cycles comic, which were published in the Holy Burger anthology. So you are welcome to check that out, and also your other work, of course, and Klitoris, which is right out there at the Strip Burger stand in Slovenian. Plus, I saw there's also Tuberculosis 2000, your other book, which we didn't have time to talk about.
Yeah, well, just to round it up, I also, I think that's pretty much my latest work, was in this anthology, Hairspray, and also just to give my praise for other women. This magazine is made by 10 comic book artists, all women, and the second issue is on the way, also 10 great women, and it's so nice to read other comic book artists. It's only small stories, 10, 12 pages each, but there's a lot of things, a lot of thoughts, where it's really nice to feel like, oh wow, I have colleagues. I really have colleagues. And also I think the woman that is editing this magazine, Carla Paloma, is really also an interesting artist that you should check out. She's done it the way that she made her own scenes and small publishing, do it yourself, and then now it's in German and Spanish and Danish. So yeah, that's just I think it's a very nice way of getting established, do it yourself in the first place, and just make small stories, and then also her work with letting starting actually this feels like a community. So that's really nice. I just wanted to say that. And I have a few of them with me, just 3 issues because it's very heavy. But afterwards, I will be sitting at the table and signing, and I will also sell these.
So welcome. And thank you, Rikke, so much for the conversation.